All right, lesson 58. First thing we're going to talk about is exponents. We're going to express them as a fraction with repeated multiplication as a base with a positive or negative exponent. We're going to look at straight line equations. Okay, we'll complete the multiplication table with the missing x or y values and draw the line. Sign number operations. We'll multiply and combine a string of values. And then the last part here, geometry. We'll be looking at area of a circle. So go to the next part on your note sheets here. First thing we're going to talk about is exponents. Okay, we'll rewrite each value so the exponent has the opposite sign. Remember, you move the base and exponent to the opposite part of the fraction and write the exponent with the opposite sign. So if we look at A, we have 1 over 5 to the 4th. So my base and exponent is in the bottom. What I want to do is move it to the top. So I'm going to have 5 over 4 on top. And then when I move that to the top, my exponent has to become negative. So we end up with 5 to the negative 4th. Taking a look at B, we've got 9 to the negative 3rd. It's on top. Okay, so I want to move that to the bottom. When I move that 9 to the negative 3rd to the bottom, it's going to become 9 to the positive 3rd. And it's on the bottom, so I need a 1 on top. So we get 1 over 9 to the 3rd. Okay, C, we have 1 over m to the negative 6th. So I want to move that m to the negative 6 to the top. Again, when I do that, it's going to change the sign on the exponent. It's going to become m to the positive 6. Okay? D and E, you can do on your own. So you can pause the video right now and go ahead and do D and E on your own. Okay, then for this next part here, you're going to need the workbook sheet that you were given. Okay, so part 1 on that workbook sheet says you're going to complete the table and then use the points to draw a line. The table shows some missing x and y values. So the first thing on our table that we can go ahead and do is, we know the rule is y equals 3/5 x. So we can put that 3/5 in all the way down. Now you have to get your missing x or your missing y value, whatever happens to be missing. So for point A here, what we really have here is 6 equals 3/5 x. I'm going to give myself just a little bit more room there to work this. Okay, again, we have 6 equals 3/5 x. So to solve this equation for x, okay, you're either going to multiply or you're going to multiply by the reciprocal. In this case, we need to multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, when I multiply by the reciprocal here, over here, everything cancels. We're left with x. And if I take 5/3 times 6, that is going to give me 10. So my x value over here will be 10. Now for point B, this time you're missing the y. So the equation you really have here for B, again, is y equals 3/5 times 20. So in this one, you can just go ahead and multiply. So 3/5 times 20, that is going to be 12. So in this one, your y is 12. Okay. Now, C and D you can come up with on your own. You can go ahead and work those on your own. What you need to do then is go ahead and graph them. So you already have this graph on your workbook sheet. Now remember, so for A, we have an ordered pair here. Remember the X always comes first. So our ordered pair is 10, 6. For B, our ordered pair here is 20, 12. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and plot those points and label them. So A is at 10, 6. So 10, and then up to 6, which would be right there. I'm going to label that point A, and I'm going to put my coordinates there that it's at 10, 6. Point B is at 20, 12. So I'm going over to 20 on the X, and then I'm going to go up to 12, which is right there. I'm going to label that B, and I'm going to put my coordinates there, 20, 12. Okay, so you need to go ahead, find Y for C, find X for D, plot those points, okay, and when you're done, you should have a line going through all 4 points and through 0, okay? That's how you'll know if you're correct. So go ahead, pause the video, and finish C and D, plot them, and draw your line. Okay, the next part in your workbook. Okay, on your workbook sheet. So same sheet you were just using. So the problem in the box has terms added, subtracted, and multiplied. We need to do these in the correct order. If we do not do them in the correct order, people would get different answers. So the first thing we need to do is remove the parentheses, and we do that by multiplying. Okay, so what do we do first? We remove the parentheses. Once we remove the parentheses, and once we multiply to remove the parentheses, the next thing you can do is go ahead and combine things, okay? Add or subtract them, whichever it happens to be. Okay, and then when you're combining, you're just going to do that in order. So for this problem, we would take -8 minus 1, okay? -8 minus 1 would give us -9. And then we're going to take that minus 16. Well, -9 minus 16, that is going to give you -25. Okay, flip to the next part here. Okay, on your workbook, so you're going to work the problems. Remember, first remove parentheses. Remember to copy any values that are not multiplied in the equation you start with. Then figure out the answer. So this is what you should have on your workbook sheet. So when I look at problem A, I am going to, again, work my way here from left to right, take care of any multiplication I see with the parentheses. So I've got the +6. Well, that's not being multiplied by anything, so I'm going to leave that. Now in parentheses, I have a -3, which is being multiplied by the -2. So -2 times -3, okay, is +6. So those two made my +6. Okay, next I have +4 times -1. Well, +4 times -1 is -4. So that came from right there. And then over here I have the -5. Well, if I take 6 plus 6, that's 12. 12 minus 4 is 8. And 8 minus 5 is going to give me +3. So that's what you're doing with these. Again, multiply first to remove the parentheses, and then combine your numbers. So pause the video here for a moment. Go ahead and work on those last 3. Okay, you have some independent work in your workbook. Also, don't forget to go ahead and do that if you haven't had a chance already, and turn that in. Okay, the next thing we're going to work on here is area of a circle. So it says the circle shows the square units. The number of square units in the circle is what you find when you figure out the area. The circumference, diameter, and radius are marked in regular units. Okay? For circumference, diameter, and radius, those are all just distances, so we just give the units for those. So for the circle we have here, how many units is the radius? Well, remember the radius goes from the middle of the circle to the edge of the circle. So if I count that, that's 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. Okay, so our radius is going to be 4 units. Okay, how many units is the diameter? Well, remember the diameter is twice as long as the radius. So if the radius is 4, the diameter is going to be 8. And we can see that on our circle. We already know that the radius is 4. So if we keep going here, 5, 6, 7, 8. All the way across will be our diameter. Next question about how many units is the circumference? Well, remember circumference is the distance around the circle. So if we start at the top here and we count around, okay, you can see that as you go around here, it's going all the way around, okay, to 25. So it's about 25. Now that's an estimate for this circle. What's the letter equation for circumference? Remember circumference, C equals pi times diameter. When we want to find the circumference, we take pi times diameter. What's the letter equation for the area of a circle? Well, when we want area, we take pi times the radius squared. So area equals pi times the radius squared. All right, so next thing here, for each circle in part 3, you'll find the circumference and the area. So you're probably going to want to go to your book here. Make sure you're looking in your book so that you can see what they give you for the circle. So in part 3 here, circle A, I see that they give me that the diameter is 12 inches. So if my diameter is 12 inches, I know my radius is half that is 6 inches. So to find the circumference, again, I'm going to do pi times diameter. If I'm finding the circumference, I need diameter. My diameter is 12. So I put that into my equation, pi times 12. Use your calculator, the pi key on your calculator. If I take pi times 12, that's going to come out to be about 37.70 inches. Remember, we're rounding to the hundredths place. Now for the area of the circle, again, area of the circle is pi times radius squared. Again, if my diameter is 12, that means my radius is 6. So remember, r squared means r times r, so we're going to do pi times 6 times 6. When we do pi times 6 times 6, we get about 113.10 square inches for circle A. Now circle B, when I look at circle B, I see that they give me the radius. So when they give me the radius and I want to find circumference, I need the diameter. So my diameter is twice as much as the radius. So if my radius is 8, my diameter is 16. So I put 16 into the equation for diameter. Pi times 16 gives me about 50.27. So it'd be about 50.27 feet for my circumference. Don't forget your correct units here. Circumference is just feet, inches, whatever the unit is. When you do area, you need to remember to square your units. So now for area of circle B, again, pi times radius squared. My radius is 8. That's given to me. So I'm going to do pi times 8 times 8. And when I do pi times 8 times 8, I get about 201.06 square feet. Okay, so you can go ahead and pause the video now and go ahead and work on C and D, again, circumference and diameter for both of those, and finish that on your own.